Spring practice number 1 is in the books. Let's talk about it.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's a little bonus edition. We are recapping spring practice number 1. Going to do a Q&A session at the end, so make sure you get in the chat, get your questions in. I've got some notes that I want to go over. It was cold. But we did most of the practice in the indoor, and Coach Golish wanted to make it clear to everyone that it was not because of the temperature. Field was a little slippery. We don't want to get anybody hurt early on. So really fun to kind of finally lay eyes on a lot of these guys, see what they're all about, how they practice, and everything that goes along with it. So I told y'all I'd go live and we'd talk about what we saw, and we'll just break it down. I'm going to be honest with you. There wasn't a ton. We got about 28 minutes, and most all of it was individual drills. One thing, man, it's so dang fast. Everything is just boom, 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 boom. Fast, 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 fast. Every rep is fast. There is no wasted time whatsoever. Alex Golish and Byron Brown are like the same person. As a matter of fact, a lot of those South Florida guys have a lot of similar traits. Cole Best is another one that when they talk, they have a lot of the same mannerisms. They just are in lockstep. For example, all of a sudden you can't find Golish out there, and all of a sudden he comes sprinting out of seemingly nowhere. Byram does kind of the same thing when they break. It's a sprint, it's a run. They're super excited about everything they do. So that was really cool to see. Golish is literally everywhere. I thought that was so cool. When I say that, some coaches, especially head coaches, when it's sort of if you're in a CEO role, they just kind of hover. I hover and I kind of meander throughout the warm-ups. I meander throughout the drills. Not this guy. I mean, you look in one direction and he's working, like literally doing the same warm-up drills with Malik Autry to get loose. And then you turn your head the other way and he's getting on to a wide receiver for having bad body language after dropping a pass. And then you look over in another direction and he's right there in the mix with the offensive line. And then obviously he's over with the quarterback. He was everywhere. He made it seem like it was a cognitive effort to touch somebody in every position group. He was just in the mix, everywhere you looked. He was there, which I really, really liked. So going to go through some practice notes. Again, everything was quick, boom, boom, boom. It's very clear. I kind of focused a little bit more on the wide receiver room. Zach kind of meandered, and then we had Graham on the offensive line. We had Hunter on the defensive line. So we'll give you all those notes here, but I'm going to start with the wide receiver room, and there's no doubt about it, 4 and 11, Singleton and Kroger are the alphas. When you think G5 wide receiver, you think G5 player in general, you're probably thinking, like me, small. Like these guys are just – it's same game. It's just a little bit smaller. There's nothing small about these guys. There's nothing small about Keyshawn Singleton. He's more put together, better put together than just about anybody you had on the team last year. I think Perry Thompson's the most physically impressive receiver you had on the team yet last year. Singleton looks every bit as physically impressive and moves better too. And same thing with Jeremiah Coger. He's just a taller version. They look really, really good. There's no doubt about it. That's their room. Coger led just about every drill. I'm talking just about every drill. Coger was out there. He made it a point to be number one in line. Singleton, I think it was more like, hey, I'm going to get mine no matter what. So I'll just get in whenever I can get in. Not saying he skipped any reps, but it was very clear that four was going to make sure he was leading every drill, which I absolutely loved. One of the questions that I think were answered is exactly who might be designated as an outside receiver versus an inside receiver. I think that's some of the things, like we have assumptions, but we don't really know who that might be. And it was pretty clear today in wide receiver drills that Chase Nimrod's going to be a slot guy. I mean, I'm sure he'll probably flex out wide some, but he was primarily working in the slot today, and Chaz Nimrod. And I think that's going to be because he's big too, guys. Like he's 6'1", 6'2", maybe. Like he's filled out really well. And whenever this is kind of jumping ahead, but one of the guys that Byron Brown mentioned in his post practice interviews of guys that he expects to have a big year, he mentioned Chaz Nimrod. Like that was one of the main guys that he mentioned. So you got Nimrod, Kane, Christian Neptune, and Deshaun Spencer. Deshaun Spencer, remember, freshman from Saraland, much bigger than I expected. From a tall, like he's much taller than I expected. So they did have some clear delineation between slot and outside wide receiver. Whenever they were doing the throwing drills, they'd have a guy on the inside and they have a guy on the outside. So that was kind of the, I don't know, if you're talking about biggest information to glean from just such a limited opportunity, I think Chaz Nimrod being in the slot was a pretty good surprise to me, and I kind of like it, kind of dig it. Switching over to tight ends, Jonathan Eccles was in a non-contact jersey. There were a couple of guys. There was Jonathan Eccles, DeMarcus Riddick, obviously all the quarterbacks, and then there was another defensive back, maybe number 13. I'll look that up really quick. Let's see who number 13 is. Spring football. Corey Pettigrew. Okay, Corey Pettigrew was in a non-contact jersey as well. So nothing that Golish said was catastrophic. All of it's just like, precautionary type stuff, kind of working your way back into the lineup. So good stuff there. Jonathan Eccles is massive. He was the first tight end when he would run out. Jonathan Eccles and Jake Johnson. Coach Golish joked about Jake Johnson's bald spot, which everybody got a good chuckle at. But those two guys are definitely seem like they're 1 and 2 as far as tight ends go. The kid from Howard is insanely big. I'm trying to think of his name. Hold on one second. I'll pull it up. Xavier Newsome. He is really big, very big boy. Artis Boardingham, saw him get some good. Arlis Boardingham, saw him get in the mix. But as far as tight ends go, 1 and 2 seem like they're going to be Eccles and Johnson. And Eccles is like he looks like just a giant wide receiver. Like he's very 6'5", 230, and can move. Not exactly sure what his injury was, but he didn't look slow at all. So that's really good. Moving on to offensive line. There wasn't any really, and we debated and we talked about this after the fact. I failed to mention Stanton Ramil. He is still also coming back from injury, a surgery actually, from the offseason. So he wasn't a full participant either. So we're really trying to focus in on who might be the starting offensive line, like if we could get a glimpse of it. And we had Graham getting some video, and we posted some of that on the barn. But they were doing a 4-man drill, okay? And the first guys that would go out were Ty Buster to your far left, Cole Best right there in the middle, second, Cole Skinner right after that, and then Joe Simmons after that. So that kind of looks like left guard to right tackle. I don't really know exactly what that means as far as is that a starting offensive line without a left tackle? Were they just working those guys because Ramil was out? I know that Graham said that after that, another set of 4 would come in. I I don't know what to 100% take from that, but it does kind of sort of simulate a 4/5 of an offensive line, because Ty Buster could play guard or tackle, but right there at guard, Cole Best is your center. You feel like Cole Skinner is going to play guard, and then Joseph Simmons is going to play right tackle, and that's kind of how they lined up. Left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Again, first practice, don't know exactly if that means anything as far as the starting lineup goes, but that's what we saw first. So Joseph Simmons is a monster, by the way. Monster right tackle. Defensive line notes. The interior guys that were working together were St. Ferrier, Dallas Walker, obviously, Jordan Crawford, and then there was a number 91, and we're guessing that's Tavian Branch. Tavian Branch was listed at like 78 or 77 or something like that on the roster. But I didn't notice that number anywhere else. And somebody was wearing 91 on that interior group. And I feel pretty confident it was Tavian Branch. If I get corrected on that, that's fine. Otherwise, there's a 91 and there's a mystery player out there. We don't 100% know who that is. Your more interior defensive tackle guys, not your true nose guys, but those guys that are on the left or the right of that nose. You're talking Cody Sigler, who is very physically impressive. He had a lot of eyeballs on him, a lot of cameras on him. Buddy Mathis, who was very, very explosive. We got some good film of him hitting the sleds, very explosive. Malik Autry. So Malik Autry, I think he played a little bit of both last year, lined up at nose and then kind of flanked over as well. And like that 3 technique, he's there. That's really good. And then Darian Smith, who looks just he's so physically impressive. So that's your interior and your exterior. As far as who went first, they all kind of went at different times. So it wasn't couldn't get a really good idea of who the true one is in any of those groups. They did a rep on the drill, and Autry hit the sled, and Von Trail was like, okay, that's good. No notes. That's great. Get to the back of the line. In other words, like, it was just a flawless rep. That's a big step up from last year. A lot of times with Malik, it was more about, from what I saw on Tuesday practice, it was more about motivation than anything. So if he's locked in, man, at that size and that explosion, that power that he has, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. Jared Smith and Womack were 1-2 at edge. So he'd take a rep, then Womack would take a rep. Jared would take a rep, Womack would take a rep. Jared, and also one thing we really liked was couldn't really hear what they were saying, but you could see that he was asking a lot of questions. So he was not just like, I know the drill, I know what to do, blah, 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 blah. You could see him talking with his hands on, like, what do I do here? What do I put here? Kind of thing. And that's always good to see too. Like a guy always trying to learn, trying to get better, stuff like that. So that was obviously very, very encouraging to see as well. I know everybody's going to want to talk about Byron Brown. And again, I talked about him in the leadership piece at the very beginning. He's impressive, man. He's impressive. And the team is bought in. Like, the team is 100% bought in him being the leader. Like, there is no doubt about that. There's no doubt about who the voice is that everybody's looking to. And I just think that's so impressive, just coming to a new place. And then, I know you got some of your South Florida guys in there, but like, you got a whole new team basically built around you. And he just jumps right in there, doesn't skip a beat. And everybody kind of buys in, falls in line. Made a couple of really good throws, made a really good corner throw in the wide receiver session. There's a lot of people commenting on his release, and it is different. He sort of has like a down up hitch to his delivery, but there is no doubt that it gets there, and it gets there on time. Like, the ball is live when it comes out of his arm. Tristan Tia was going a lot as the number 2 guy, and he was very impressive. His mechanics are flawless. Like, as far as there could not be a more stark contrast as far as just the mechanical aspect of throwing a football from Byron Brown to Tristan Tia. Tristan Tia, it looks like you put it together in a robot, like a robot release. It's just the same thing over and over. And Byron's is just different. But you know what? In college, it doesn't really matter. A lot of guys have had funky releases. There's guys in the NFL that have funky releases. He can throw it from all the different angles. Even with that little hitch, he can throw he can throw it sidearm. He can throw it over the top. He can throw it deep. And he kind of showed all of that today. So that's really all we got today. Running backs, it was on the indoor. And like I said earlier, Golish wanted to make it clear that we were doing it on the indoor so nobody would slip and fall and hurt themselves outdoor. So on the indoor, you're only confined to the one sideline. Whereas if you can go outdoor, you can kind of go into both end zones and you can get on the other side. The running backs and the defensive backs were kind of on the far corner field, so you really couldn't see a ton. I do know that when they did like a handoff drill with the quarterbacks, you saw, I think it was Jeremiah Cobb went number 1 with Byron Brown. And then I think it was Nakai Davenport went number 2. And I took a note, and now I can't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. The biggest point was Bryson Washington wasn't there. I don't think he was there at practice, but he wasn't in that little 1-2-3 punch, which I thought was interesting as well. So I think that's my notes. So I'm going to kind of open it up to questions and kind of run through the chat for a little bit, as long as you guys, as long as you want. So we'll go with number 1. This is pretty funny. If you had to pick 3 players to duel with a Tiger, who do you choose? Cole Best is number 1. Love Cole Best because he seems like he would go fight a Tiger for Alex Golish. Like, he loves that guy that much. You can feel it. He almost cried at one point in time when he was talking about getting the opportunity to come to Auburn, like in the interview. Like, you could feel himself choking up a little bit. It was impressive. So he'd be number 1. Jordan Crawford, I just feel like would fare well against a Tiger. I think he would do really well. And then if I got to go somebody else, Elijah Melendez, I think, would probably fare pretty well against a Tiger, just because I just think that guy, nothing really phases him. I don't think he's scared of anything. Starting to feel like the boog is flowing. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get fired up over the first day of practice. I see somebody said turtleneck under the pullover. Yes, it was cold. So I made sure that I layered up, made sure that I was nice and warm. I had a toboggan on as well at times. So that was electric, on top of a hat, underneath a hoodie at one point in time. It was a triple decker. It was great. How do you think Bryce Cain will play this year? So again, when they talked about, we interviewed Byron Brown after practice, Bryce Cain's one of the first people that he brought up. He looked to me, if I remember correctly, was going second in all of the slot receiver drills. He's so fast. And Byron actually mentioned like a particular play they ran, and it kind of sounded like an end around or like a jet sweep or something like that. And he said that when he puts his foot in the ground and goes north-south, it's just like, holy cow, the dude can fly. I really do believe that he is like had a rebirth, man. It feels that way. Like, it feels like he has the opportunity in this system to maybe benefit more than anybody. Like, it really feels that way. So good stuff to see from Bryce. And obviously, he's one of the very few holdovers on that offensive side of the ball. So you want to pull for him and hope that he does well. Does this first day of practice feel sharper and faster than other years past? So I'm not going to say the player's name, but there was a player that we talked to that said that there is no comparison when you talk about energy when you talk about overall vibes, when you talk about, how fast and how well they feel as far as day one. Like you think day one, you think it's slow, it's learning, it's sloppy. Even Golish said, like, we didn't really start getting sloppy until the end of practice because of just like conditioning and getting back into it. All the installs and the stuff they've been doing leading up to that, man, it felt like, honestly, Zach may say something different. Some of the other guys may say something different, but it felt like a midseason practice to me based off of what I saw from last year. I would say that the energy level was way up, way, way up. So now, does that equate to wins? Is that going to equate to victories next year? No idea. So we'll see. But as far as energy goes, vibe goes, sharpness, speed, fast, no comparison. This is a good question. Tavian Upshaw, should we be concerned about the injuries we have with certain players, Stanton Ramil and Champ Anthony, for example? So what did Golish called it something? He said they are in return to practice protocol, I believe, something along those lines. And he specifically said nothing catastrophic. Those two things. So in other words, they're not in a ramp down mode. They're in a ramp up mode. So they are coming off of injuries and they're working them back into practice. So he felt like, I think he said he felt like Stanton Ramil would be able to be full speed by like halfway through spring practice. That was the goal. So as far as catastrophic, so DeMarcus Riddick had shoulder surgery. I think there was a couple of those, had shoulder surgery. So he's probably going to be held out, I guess, for spring, but nothing to where it's like you feel like it's going to be an issue, lingering into the summer and into the spring. So I hope that answers your question. Not practice related, so if you want to cover it another time, that's fine. But have you heard anything about this possible edge transfer from Baylor? I saw a lot of that news yesterday and this morning, and then there were some whispers amongst those there that Auburn is in. It feels like they're in a really good spot. I think he's a former 4-star out of high school, another edge guy, and I will be just completely honest, Auburn's edge room is a little thin. I mean, you really only have 4 or 5 true guys in that room. And this is another guy that's, 6'5", 230, 240 pounds. So we'll probably talk about him later in the week. I think he's scheduled to visit March 28th. So that's what? It's next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but the very, very next Saturday. So, maybe we get that one in the boat and add him to this roster, man. Add it into that room. It's good stuff. Brett, I heard Hunter tripped Hudson Cock on his way out of the locker room. Can you confirm? I cannot confirm that. Hunter did. Hunter watched a lot of the special teams, so y'all make sure that you tune into the Barnes social hour tonight and see that. And I'm sure they're going to be talking about practice. They were fired up. I think that was their first practice, so got a lot of good notes, a lot of good stuff to go over there. But I think that's about it. Overall, again, the theme was fast. The theme was energy, and I think that's everything that we wanted to see. We saw. I would have loved to have had a little bit of 12-on-12. I don't feel like we're going to see much of that ever again under Alex Golish, which is totally fine. Feels like this is probably what we're going to get for the most part. We'll get to see some individual stuff and, get to talk to some coaches, get to talk to some players after the fact. But for the most part, I think this is kind of what we're going to see be a little limited, and that's okay. That's okay. Guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back again tomorrow morning. We got a Barncast tonight for the basketball game, so make sure you tune into that. Got a lot of stuff going on, so make sure you're tuned in. You got that alert bell checked on because we got content dropping like all day long, every day, all week. So appreciate it, guys. Talk again soon. Peace.